Jacob Zuma's private prosecution attempts have been blocked by the Supreme Court of Appeal. The former president wanted to prosecute the NPA's Billy Downer and journalist Karyn Maughan privately. He accused the prosecutor of leaking his medical records to the investigative reporter. Now, Justice Nathan Punan found the appeal was without foundation and was aimed at delaying his corruption trial. To discuss this further, I am joined by constitutional law expert Paul Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, thank you very much for your time and for joining us early this morning. Just first of all, this Stalingrad approach that we've seen the former president actually perform, it's not something that we're saying as the media. I mean, the judges have said that, or rather Justice Punan actually said that in yesterday's judgment, and also he's made it as an example in some of the societies, the law societies, as someone who practices this style.
Yes, you're quite right, and good morning to your viewers as well. The Stalingrad strategy is something that Mr. Zuma has been following since the late Kemp J. Kemp, who was his advocate in that rape case before he even became leader of the ANC, let alone president of South Africa for 2 terms. Kemp J. Kemp actually announced in court that it was Mr. Zuma's intention to follow a Stalingrad strategy. Now, that strategy gets its name from the World War II Battle of Stalingrad, where the Germans tried to invade Russia and to take over the city of Stalingrad. And the strategy that the Russians employed in order to keep the Germans at bay was to fight house by house, room by room, street by street, without ever giving an inch on anything. And in that battle, the Germans were unable to take Stalingrad, and Mr. Zuma's hope is that by following the same tactics as the Russians followed in that battle, he will never actually have to face trial or the prospect of incarceration for the crimes which he is facing in the Pietermaritzburg High Court, and seems to succeed in postponing again and again.
And I remember Kemp J. Kemp actually in that particular court case where he said that this is the approach that the former president is taking. He said, we'll fight them in every street and every corner. I think I'm quoting him correctly by saying that. So definitely it was one of those. But also the judges at the Supreme Court of Appeal calling his application an abuse of private prosecution, which is a question I always ask. Maybe the problem was also with the National Prosecuting Authority by just signing a blank application by the former president to go for private prosecution. I mean, at some point he had added the current president.
Yes, no, well, that's another one of his Stalingrad strategies that has failed. He has lost that particular house or that particular corner of the street in his battle for Stalingrad. But what the judges are saying in this week's judgment is that Mr. Zuma has abused the process of court, and he is now in danger of being declared a vexatious litigant. And what happens with vexatious litigants is that they are not allowed to issue any process of court because of the way in which they have abused the system in the past. And he is now skating on the edge of being declared a vexatious litigant. You can rest assured that he is not deterred by the setback in Justice Ponen's very well-reasoned and thorough judgment. He will now apply to the Constitutional Court, not because he thinks he's going to win in the Constitutional Court. It's very unlikely. The High Court, 3 judges have said no, and the Supreme Court of Appeal, with 5 judges, has said no. Now, the probabilities are that any attempt to take the matter further in the Constitutional Court will do nothing other than buy more time for Mr. Zuma in his overall Stalingrad strategy. It's not a case he can
Yeah, and for me, it's also the question, Mr. Hoffman, on whether or not there should be a law that also stipulates how long you can drag, things on. I mean, at some point, the taxpayer was paying for all of these court cases where the Stalingrad approach was being used by the former president. So I wonder if, the law should go further in stipulating exactly how long you can drag a case on, because this has to do with that Thales corruption case that we've been waiting for the trial to start for the longest of times now. But very quickly, there was a little confusion, I must admit, Mr. Hoffman, that I had as a journalist. There's also the fact that the former president said, look, they are, infringing on my constitutional rights to privacy. My medical records should not be shared. And the judges yesterday saying that no cognizable offense has been committed, even if all the facts alleged by Jacob Zuma are true. They found that it was another prosecutor who actually shared the, letter from correctional services on what he was ill from, etc. But is that correct?
It's not even that much. Yeah, it's not even that much.
Yeah.
If you, as a well experienced and well versed newshound, can tell me what Mr. Zuma's medical condition is,
yeah,
because of what has been leaked, according to him, I'll be very interested to hear, because I've looked at all of the documents.
There is no.
And I don't know what medical condition he's got.
Yeah.
And, that's the first problem he's got with his prosecution. It's quite right that it wasn't Billy Downer who gave the document. And in any event, that document is part of the public record in the case of the state versus Zuma and Thales. So really, he hasn't got a leg to stand on. But that doesn't prevent him from Stalingrading ad nauseam.
All right, just very quickly, this is something that is quite true. I mean, Karyn Maughan, just like any other journalist would have been able to get record of this, note that was given by his doctor. It could have been me, that he suddenly took to court. Let's talk about the developments around the suspended public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Parliament yesterday discussing that she might have to pay back 2.1 billion rand of a house that she decided to occupy against the advice of her advisor at the Public Protector's office. It just keeps coming with her, and gratuity being discussed, that money that you usually get after your tenure as the Public Protector, she might not get. This, I suspect, having to do with the fact that she's the very first Public Protector in our history to be suspended.
Very first Chapter 9 head to be to be impeached. She hasn't only been suspended
and impeached.
She's been
Absolutely
declared unfit
correct.
for office. Yeah. It's gone that step further. But this latest incident in Parliament is really just an indication of how absolutely clueless she is. If you're the head of a Chapter 9 institution, the Constitution requires you to behave independently and to act without fear, favor, or prejudice, instead of which she moves into the ministerial compound with the people whom the public expect her to hold to account in the conduct of state affairs and the public administration of South Africa. So it's been called wasteful expenditure by the Auditor General. It's money that she ought not to have been given to live in this fancy ministerial compound in Pretoria. And it's money that she's going to have to pay back. And at 60,000 Rand a month and a 7-year term of office, as you said, there's a big amount of money involved, and quite clearly it must be paid back.
And she's probably going to come back to say she is being victimized. I have a feeling that we haven't heard the last of that. Thank you so much for your time. Paul Hoffman, a constitutional law expert. We appreciate your analysis.